Kinston is a great community. For me, it's home. I think we are truly a community that shows, probably more than any other community in North Carolina, the story of resilience. I'm currently North Carolina's youngest elected official, and I enter a lot of rooms where oftentimes I'm the only young person there, I'm the only black person there. And as I enter these rooms, especially as we're having political conversations about the direction of this country, or what are black men thinking, what are black men doing in America in this moment, people rely on me for that answer. But I don't want to be anybody's token black guy. What better way to engage young black men than the place where we're already going to be at, the place where we're already having these conversations about life, about politics, about entertainment, about what's happening in society, the barbershop. Hey everybody, I'm Chris Suggs. I have the honor of being a city council member for the city of Kinston. Glad you all joined us here for this barbershop series, talking about what's happening in our lives as young black men here in Kinston, here in America. I'm here with my friend Jordan Lopez, who's a state representative from Charlotte.
The purpose of this is to really get into a deep conversation about what young black men are thinking about across our state. We're calling it Straight to the Point because we really want to get straight to the point. I mean, the name is really encapsulates what we want to accomplish with these conversations, and I'm happy to be here with you all. Our state legislature is constitutionally charged with equipping or with funding a high-quality public school system for every county in our state. And over the past 14 years, our legislature has been intentionally defunding, if you will, our public schools. They have raised teacher pay at a rate that does not keep up with inflation. And if you're not keeping up with inflation, you're essentially taking a pay cut. If you can't keep high-quality educators in the classroom, your class sizes get bigger. They have refused to invest in things like guidance counselors and social workers for our students. They don't want to invest in those types of programs. And in fact, they're now pushing over $500 million by 2028, I believe, into this Opportunity Scholarship Program. So they're continuing to siphon off money from our public schools, which I'm a proud product of public schools, and I'm not sure how many, I think Kinston High School is a public school. Really curious at what you guys think about that intentional act, especially the folks who are more recently removed from high school. Did you notice that? Like, were your class sizes bigger, especially when you got into schools? Did your technology, was it adequate enough for you, the resources that you had? Could you go to a guidance counselor or a social worker if you really wanted to and needed that extra support? Did you have that?
So I had my guidance counselors, but I definitely felt the heat of that when we came to high school and there weren't a lot of actual teachers. There were subs and people that proctored the class, but there was never somebody that was teaching most of the time. And if you did have a teacher, they were only there for a week, and then it would be a sub.
Your pay is not rising with the inflation, so now it's like you said, it's the same thing as taking a pay cut. Who's gonna want to be a teacher? And it's just like now our education system is just what's there anymore. There's not really much left. If we continue to let things be this way.
They push you to go to college, in the same breath they complain about how much they get paid. So people kind of stray away from it in a way. And it's well, I'm not about to go to college for 6-7 years only to get out and make make 2 times less than what a person that's doing YouTube videos make and stuff like that.
We were talking about schools, and Jordan mentioned something that we didn't touch on too much, or we didn't stay on too much, about the legislature actually divesting money from our public schools into what's called an Opportunity Scholarship. And an Opportunity Scholarship is basically an opportunity for kids who are currently in public schools to choose to go and take that money away from our local public schools and send that money to a private school for them to go to and be able to get a private school education. In a second, I want to hear how you guys feel about that. But I know, Shannon, you went to both private and public schools in your upbringing. What was that experience like?
So from kindergarten on up until 8th grade, I was sheltered, went to a private school, went to a public school my 9th grade year, high school. Walked the halls of Kinston High for the first time. I didn't know what a curse word was. I didn't know what drugs were. I didn't know what sex was. I didn't know anything. And so I am thankful that I was able to have the culture shock getting to high school, because I can only imagine if I would have graduated from private school my 12th grade and tried to go to college or even just try to go in the real world, I would have been messed up. So I'm thankful for the public school, and I'm thankful for it being there because I was able to be diverse. I was able to take some of the spiritualistic things and the good upbringing that I had in my base, was able to transform that even up to my current life right now. So thankful for both, that I'm able to be cultural and diverse in who I am.
You know, going to school and having classrooms with no teachers, classrooms with substitute teachers. And so if we're taking our public school dollars out of public schools that are already struggling, already trying to find teachers and can't find teachers, and put them to private schools where, you know, it was just alluded to, that might not have the best culture or the most well-rounded culture, what do you think that's going to have the impact on our on our public schools? Like, how is that going to make things worse?
I hate to compare it, but it's gonna be like the jungle and the zoo. The private school is gonna be like a zoo because it's more organized, and the public school is gonna be like a jungle. There's barely any teachers, a whole bunch of students, a whole bunch of chaos. People in schools hitting vapes and on FaceTime and all types of stuff that would have never went down when we were in school. You know.
How many private schools or charter schools are even in the Kinston area?
Yeah, two private schools, one charter school in Kinston.
Even if every student wanted to go to one, could they accommodate all?
Do y'all think that's possible?
No.
So that's the problem in and of itself, right? Like we're making it to where it's a false choice. Like every kid can go to private schools. And one thing, Chris, that I just wanted to add to the explanation of the opportunity scholarships, it does not cover a full cost of tuition for a private school or a charter school. They can be upwards of $20,000 a year. These opportunity scholarships only cover essentially what your per student or per pupil allotment is for your public school, which may be $9,000, $10,000 in some cases. So your family is still going to be on the hook for another $10,000 for you to then go access that increase in quality of education. But then also, if there's only 3 public schools or 3 public and charter schools here in the Kinston area, excuse me, I noted earlier, $500 million is going to be diverted from our public school system into this opportunity scholarships. That's $500 million that could otherwise go to Kinston Public or Kinston High. And I'm not sure what the elementary school or middle school here is named, but like that's money that could otherwise be going to help your teachers, your educators, and where your 2 kids, I don't know if they go to public schools or not, your little girl where she goes to school, that's money that she's missing out on. That's money that's now going to families that probably already were sending their kids to private schools. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of what folks have been trying to bring to attention. Arizona is one of the first states, or was one of the first states, that did an opportunity scholarships program. This year, their legislature is having to cut their budget primarily in water infrastructure, primarily from community preparedness, emergency preparedness and management, billions of dollars having to be cut from these different projects because they put so much money into their opportunity scholarships, they cut taxes, pretty much the same thing our legislature is trying to do now. And now they're having to cut so much money from essential services. We'd be in a bad position if we had to start cutting that money. So it's like they paint this picture that opportunity scholarships are going to be the be-all, end-all to solving our education crisis in North Carolina when they continue to just refuse to fund public education.
Like, just like the difference between the public and the private school, like, what can you say, like, about, like, the resources and just, like, what you were able to get out of that, like?
So the one I went to was more Christian-based, so it was the curriculum. So every time you did a math problem, you'd be like, if Jesus had 2 apples, you know. So not a big difference, but down to like social life and skills and all those things. I'm not going to send my children personally to private school. They're going straight to Kinston High, you know, just.
If you don't mind me asking why?
So it was still an adjustment for me in 9th grade because I still had to get to know, let's just say, I think Kinston High might have had 1,000 kids at the time that already knew each other from kindergarten all the way to high school. And so it was just a culture shock on top of my education. And social, I mean, education is important, but my social was the most important to me.
How big were the classes at your private school? Like how many students were in each class?
You might have been looking at between 20 to 30 kids in class.
How small were the class sizes at the private school?
At Bethel, you had no more than 15 kids in class.
Oh.
No more than 15 kids.
Kinston was once a tobacco town. We were a thriving tobacco community. We're home to major textile industries. My grandmother, so many people worked in, shirt factories and clothing factories here in town. And over years, we got hit with hurricanes, flooding. A lot of those industries left our city and went other places. And there was a huge economic downturn. We struggled with issues like poverty and health disparities and crime because of those things. Folks, unfortunately, had to go back to some dire conditions working in agriculture or meatpacking processing plants. And that's where a lot of folks still work to this day. Some of our biggest employers are meat industries and meat companies like Sanderson's Farms, a chicken plant, because there are limited opportunities for folks elsewhere. Not only are we dealing with the hazards and safety issues that come in working in these very demanding industries, but there's not much room for economic advancement and economic mobility when there's nothing else and nowhere to advance. We're in a position now where a lot of folks in Kinston don't have really good jobs. They may work in a lower level wage job, they may work in retail, they may work in meatpacking industries, Sanderson's Farm, Smithfields, things like that. Those industries can be kind of tough for people. Any of you all have any experience working in those industries or know somebody in your family who's worked in those industries right now?
So I worked at Sanderson Farm for like 3 hours. I kid you not, I go to work, I'm there, I'm learning, the line is moving, and I'm responsible for cutting wings and pulling shoulders. And I'm talking about the first 30 minutes, I got it down pat. And this dude, Delaney, he was like, y'all got it, we're gonna speed up a little bit. I'm talking about I was non-stop. The first break came, I think the first break was like 12 minutes. And everybody's like speed walking, the people that's been there for a while. By the time I get undressed out of my stuff to go to my break, they're already coming back. So I was like, break's over. And I went to my car and left. I never went back. I probably still got a check out there, but that was the worst. I'm talking about that was the worst experience. And I'm like, I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing that. There ain't no way. It was cold. And there was a guy standing in one spot. So I was like, I'm young, I'm like 18. I'm like, man, what's wrong with him? Why he not here with us? He cut his hand like a couple weeks ago, and pretty much he still had to come there. He just couldn't do anything. So this man had to come stand in the cold. And it was just like inhumane to me. Like, no, there's no way I'm doing that. So that was my experience. And I made it my mind up that day. I'm never going to another factory again, ever.
Those companies are some of our biggest, they are our biggest employers here in Kinston and Little County. The majority of our citizens work in those industries. Do you feel like they have other options for the folks who work in there?
I am one of the ones who were lucky enough to be able to come back home and open my own business. Now, upon opening a business, you have to stay in business, what they say, about 5 years to really be successful and, really see the turnaround of your monies. Me being, I'm gonna say a hustler. I'm a hustler, I'm gonna make the money. I was like, you know what I'm gonna do is I'll just run the funeral home during the day, and I'm just gonna go out and get me another job at night. First thing that popped in my mind was the hospital. I can just go, ER registration or something, and I saw all the job listings online that they were hiring. So I would put in the applications, and every time I would put in the application, I would get an email back from HR saying that there were more qualified people for the job. So me being optimistic, I went to the hospital. I was like, listen, hey, y'all gonna hire me, right? And I actually went over HR to the actual department that needed help. And when I went to her, she was like, Whitfield, I would love you for the position. I was like, I've already put in an application. So I found out that that my application was never reaching that department. There was an automatic system that was sending out the emails that was automatically declining people. So you realize how many people are being declined from jobs just because of an automatic system.
He had to apply for the jobs multiple times. That takes a computer to go online on the internet. It takes internet access. It takes a computer to actually apply for these jobs. He then went beyond that and actually went to the hospital, drove to the hospital. We don't have public transportation in Kinston. We don't have complete broadband access in Kinston. Everybody doesn't have internet access at their home. There are actual systemic things in place that our elected officials do have the power to change. I'm on the city council in Kinston. If we had a city council majority willing and able to get us a real public transportation system in our community, we could have it. But we don't have elected leadership who are making that a priority. So imagine a person who lives in, Simon Wright, who lives down the hill, wanting to get a job at the hospital. They're applying online. they're getting bounced back. If they don't have a public transportation system to actually get to the hospital, how are they going to walk in that department and say, hey, I need you to review this application? Have any of y'all been out to the airport recently? The state and federal government are building a new aircraft maintenance facility out there at the airport, bringing in 400 new jobs, all high-paying jobs with like a total average or combined salary amount of $35 million a year in salaries for these jobs. So very high-paying, good skilled, good benefit jobs coming to Kinston. But they're not Kinston people who are going to be working there. These are people coming in from out of state, or, across the country, or living in Greenville, New Bern, Goldsboro to work in these industries. Did you all even know about these jobs? Nope. Yeah, a lot of folks in Kinston don't know about the opportunities that do exist. And don't you think that's systemic? Isn't that by design, that those of us who live here, who are trying to find better opportunities for ourselves, are resorted to working in factories and meat processing plants rather than getting into good paying jobs that are available out there?
Hey, elected official, maybe we could have asked this company to partner with Lenore Community College to create some type of on-the-job training program. So that way, even if there aren't any jobs that y'all are willing to create right now for this company, you can help some of the folks who are here who may have been working at Sanderson or who may have had a job at another factory, who have technical skills and also a desire to work. You can help them get trained up so they can, then you got a pipeline that you're building. So as your employees work, maybe find other opportunities or move up in the company, you can bring in local talent and you're becoming a part of the community. So it's like, I would just wanted to add that different perspective to the conversation, that it doesn't even just have to be on the company advertising those jobs or being less picky, or on the individual actually taking the time to go find it. Our leadership could do a better job at making sure that those opportunities exist.
This election cycle is not the beginning of these unprecedented and very polarizing election cycles that our country has faced. It has gotten increasingly worse, but what you're seeing this year, I think, is so many groups, so many organizations and politicians trying to buy or vie for the black vote. Because while these politicians and political groups and special interest groups want to see and want to benefit from the black vote and the black political power, I don't think they're engaging with us in very meaningful ways. I don't think they really know what our communities really need. We had an incident earlier this year where a police officer approached a young man, ended up a video going viral of a young man being hit with closed fist punches on the ground, tased in the backseat of a vehicle. I just knew that very next week at our city council meeting, it was going to be a packed house. The only people who were there was the young man and his parents. So to know that these types of incidents do spark a lot of outrage on social media, a lot of conversation in the community, nobody else showed up at that city council to support him. That was an interesting thing to me. Probably another week or two after that, we had a meeting where we were discussing stoplights on Queen Street. The DOT wanted to take away some of the stoplights in downtown Kinston. There were probably 75 people in the audience coming to talk about stoplights. Like, we had people emailing us, calling us, texting us, showing up, ready to protest over these stoplights, which wasn't even the city's decision. But also at that same meeting, we were discussing the city's $117 million budget, how we were going to allocate money towards the police department, to parks and recreation, to streets, to public services. We were discussing that the very next item on the agenda. As soon as we finished talking about the stoplights, everybody got up and left. And those are the conversations that we need people engaged in, because those are the things that are going to impact you on a day-to-day basis. Your police officers, how much our public service workers are getting paid, how our streets are getting resurfaced. Those are the things that matter, and we haven't had people engaged in those conversations. And then we have elected officials who see the fact that nobody's paying attention. We don't have to change anything in the budget. We can keep, everything the same. We don't have to fully fund our streets. We don't have to fully fund our recreation programs. We don't have to have those community service and tutoring programs and mentoring programs that y'all were talking about. Those are things that the city council can change. And I want y'all to realize that, that's not a personal decision that we don't have those things. That's a systemic issue there, because $117 million is a whole lot of money.
Politics don't care if you don't care about politics, because it's gonna happen to you. Those politicians in Raleigh will leave you behind. It's as simple as that, if you don't care about politics. I would challenge each and every one of you to care about politics. It matters. Whether you're involved or not matters, because if you've got 2 kids, 1 kid, plan to have kids, or are a kid yourself, the decisions that are made at the city council dais, the state legislature, and in Congress affect you one way or another, one day or another?
Do you plan to vote in this election? And if not, what will it take to actually get you out to the polls in November?
It's affected me as I've gotten older, the decisions that I know could be remediated. Now that I have my business, I see the decisions that can be made but are not being made. So directly affecting me, directly, head on. I need those changes made. So that's what's pressing me to take my tail to the polls and get the word out and actually push people to do the same.
All right, well, it's my first year being able to vote, so I wouldn't expect myself not to be there, but especially what Jordan has said, that we have like local seats on the ballot now. It's really important to get to the polls and vote, because when you vote for those people, they can have a direct impact on you for the better. So yeah, that's why I'll be.
I give it some thought, man. You know, I'm kind of in the midst between 50-50. You know, I ain't gonna sit here and tell you yeah, then not vote. I ain't gonna sit here and tell you no, and do vote. I just give it some thought, man.
Yeah.
But what would it take?
Yeah, what would it take?
What would it take to vote?
To get to that 100?
What would it take? Get to 100?
Like who do you need to hear from, or what do you need to hear candidates say that would make you say, you know what, that right there is why it's worth me showing up to vote for you?
The truth is, man, you know, saying Jesus Christ is Lord, man. That's the real true fact. So that's no matter who we vote for, the will of the Father is still gonna be done regardless. So we can vote for someone, but yeah, we may vote for that person, but it's only who the Father wants. He knows everything that's gonna go on. He knows who's gonna go on else before we even vote. So that's my truth.
And, you know, I want to push back a little bit again. You know, I'm a firm believer. I believe that Jesus Christ is Lord, but I also believe that God gave us free will.
Yeah, for sure.
And I also believe that faith without works is dead. I have faith in a better community. I have faith in a better world, but I work on a daily basis to do my part to make that happen. And voting is a part of that part. We've got to have people who, you know, see the values of being, you know, forward thinking, who want to see God's will done in heaven as it is on earth. Mm-hmm. Like, we want to have people who have good values, good morals, who believe in public education, who believe in healthcare access, who believe in connectivity. And so I've got to do my part by voting, and part of making that possible, part of bringing heaven to earth is, you know, making our community
Somebody said what you just said, then I vote.
Okay, well, I'm a politician.
Ain't nobody say that yet. So you cut my vote, man. Be real.
So with me, really, I'm not really too big into politics either, but I never really surrounded myself around politicians. So with that being said, like, I can do my own research and read about it and get there mentally, but that's really what it takes for me to just sit down and, you know, take accountability in my own and do my own reading.
So I want to start out by saying I always voted, and the thing about it is I never voted blindly, because I know you know, we were able to vote young. So when you're young, you just kind of go in there, you're like, oh, I want this person to win, but I actually would look into stuff as much as I could and then try to make a vote. And it was a few times where I was like, oh man, I didn't know, you know, this was in his policy, or he felt this way about this. But I mean, that just comes with it. But I've always just voted just because I know, you know, our ancestors kind of fought for us just to be able to have the right to vote. So I just feel like it'd be disrespectful to them to not access, you know what I'm saying, to exercise that ability to vote. You know what I'm saying? So
I've never voted until obviously Chris ran. I never paid attention to it, but I hear my man speak. He kind of influenced me to get out and vote and do my own little research. So I vote this year.
I honestly don't have a choice at all if I wanted to vote or not, being that my granddad is county commissioner. But one thing he always really told me was things not gonna change unless you actually really want it to. In order to make a change, you actually have to step out and beyond. It's not even about it's about who's in the seat, but it's all about who you want in that seat that's gonna make the betterment for yourself and your family. So I will be voting again this year.
As Jordan and I go across the state, listening to our peers, listening to young black men talk about the issues that are impacting us on a daily basis, one, I hope that our peers feel engaged meaningfully. I don't think there's been a project like this before in North Carolina, really talking to young black men about the things that matter to our lives. And I hope that it inspires them, to look at us as two young black political leaders in North Carolina, to get involved in politics, to get involved in their community. I'm not saying they have to run for office, become a city councilman or a state legislator, but there are so many things that are impacting our lives on a day-to-day basis that we do have the power to change by getting involved in the political process. Listen to the feedback, listen to the dialogues we're having in these conversations, and take that back to their legislative chambers, their city halls, their school board offices, because there are things that are coming out of these conversations that might seem casual, that might seem informal, but could be implemented in real meaningful policy. And we want a brighter North Carolina, we want a brighter United States, and it's going to take them meaningfully engaging people who look like me. To kind of wrap things up and, leave the conversation on a positive note, we want to start dreaming big about what Kinston could be, what this world could be. We've talked about a lot of subjects. Some of them have been tough, some of them have been hard, but we know that better is possible. I want to see our community where we're not just struggling to survive, but people are actually thriving. So I want to hear from you guys. What do you think we need here in Kinston to get to a point where everybody's healthy, everybody's safe, and our people are really thriving? What do our young people need? What does our community need?
Some things that saved a lot of us in the city, was the Boys and Girls Club. Like me, I had different programs that I went to after school. I had law firm programs that I was in. I did like a mock trial in middle school. All of these different things that just develop your character. I feel like when you go to these different programs, you're connecting, you're networking, you're meeting people, and as you grow older, you have more resources and you have more people to connect to. So I feel like the programs are definitely important. We need way more programs for the youth, and then also we need access to things like having the internet. There's so much money out here that if they really wanted to, we can have Wi-Fi, to be able to apply to jobs. And then at the same time, if you have transportation, now you don't need a car, you can get on the bus or the train to go do what you have to do,
This past Tuesday, the city announced we're going to pursue a $20 million grant to do some new programming and revitalization in East Kinston. The budget for it hasn't been set yet, but we just announced we're going to explore this big $20 million grant program for that neighborhood. If you had $20 million, where would you invest it at in Kinston? What do you think our community needs?
Internships and jobs. Especially internships, because internships is to show that it builds experience. In order to do the jobs that we want and the jobs that we're getting neglected by, we need to have somebody who's teaching us those things. So I feel like internships is definitely something that Kinston needs in order to prepare the younger generation before, they go into the adult life that we all experiencing now.
Talking about the east side of Kinston, I remember back in the day, we lost the flood zone. Those homes near Rochelle and Holloway and stuff like that. We go and we visit those properties or whatever, for certain calls, only to find out that the people that stayed in those homes have passed away and their kids live in Maryland or whatever, have no interest in fixing the homes. But there's a lot of homes that could be remodeled and could be a place to stay for some people.
Yeah, we also have a lot of buildings that maybe recently been abandoned. So it's work that has to be done to them, but not too much work, right? And the mall, for instance, is one of them. We put some stuff in that mall. The mall has a lot of potential to bring jobs for younger teens, right? And also things for younger kids to do. The problem with Kinston is things wasn't really affordable, right? Kinston's already poverty. Things wasn't affordable to keep doing weekly. Every day through the week, through a summer, you only go there 2-3 times a week, But 7 days in a week, so you got those other 4 days, maybe 5, to do the wrong thing. We just need more things, I feel, put that money into something to bring those jobs and activities for those young kids.
Most of our public schools are kind of, I wouldn't say run down, but they're kind of molded. Water damage, a lot of damage to the ceilings and stuff, so I would probably put it into the schools.
So there's a lot of things out there, a lot of opportunities and possibilities of how our community could be improved, the knowledge we need to become better people, the resources we need to get a better education. We know that these things are possible. Well, fellas, I appreciate y'all coming out today, sharing with us your thoughts, your views, your opinions. This was a really meaningful conversation. We've gotten really to the nitty gritty on some topics. We've gotten straight to the point on others. And I want to see more of this. I want to see more black men engaged. And I think it's us going back from today out into our communities, talking with our friends about what we discussed today, what we learned today, and trying to get people to the polls in November. And realizing too that it doesn't just stop in November, that the things that happen on the ballot, that happen on election day, are going to have impacts on our lives on a daily basis. So we've got to keep looking out for each other. We've got to keep showing up for each other. We've got to keep doing our research and learning about what's happening in our communities.